Anytime the Lakers get beat, especially after a high-stakes game, you know there are going to be reactionary takes. If we're talking pre-trade deadline, many fans will say to trade a player that played poorly, or to bring them off the bench, or entirely bench that player. And well, we got exactly that after game 1. For a guy like Austin Reaves, for example, many fans were saying to bench him, or to bring him off the bench for game 2. Or that for the rotation and bench unit, many fans are not happy with it and definitely want to see changes for game 2. So with that in mind here, should they be making a change, or are we talking about a purely reactionary take here? We'll talk about that and break it all down. But before we get too far into it, don't forget to check out g2a.com. They got your best new games like Monster Hunter Wilds, gaming gift cards, PC software, and much more. So be sure to check them out in the video description down below. But now getting back to our topic. And like I said, many fans are reacting to game 1 and wanting to see changes to the rotation, especially for 3 guys in particular, talking about Austin Reaves again, and then for Dalton Knecht and Jackson Hayes, either wanting to see more of them or less of them in game 2. So we'll talk about them in particular, along with the rotation in general and if a change should be made for game 2. And well, to begin, I think we'll start by talking about Austin Reaves. Obviously had a pretty poor game 1 and especially during the first half here, finishing with an ugly 2 points in the first half, not to mention on 1 of 6 in the field, 0 of 2 from beyond the arc, and a team low -13 plus-minus rating in the first half. Now he did eventually pick it up a little bit in the fourth quarter, although kind of when the game was already out of reach, and not play great on defense or simply have a great game in general. And well, that's pretty much all it took for part of the fan base to turn on him, wanting him to either be benched in game 2, come off the bench, and play a significantly lower amount in game 2. But with that in mind here, should that be the case? Should they go to that drastic measure and go away from Austin Reaves? Well, in my opinion, no. Maybe do something different with him, and I think they definitely should. Operate with him differently within their game plan. But no, definitely not bench him or significantly reduce his playing time. I don't think that would be the route to take here. There's not been anything to point to that would say he won't come back from this and doesn't have the ability to play well against the T-Wolves. I mean, even with that game factored in his past 6 games against them has played fairly well, averaging about 17 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, and 4 assists per game to under 3 turnovers per game, shooting about 35% from 3 and 41% from the field. Not great, but not terrible, showing that he can have good games against them, even against a tough defense, and definitely has the ability to play better than he did in game 1. Then on top of that, in the 10 games leading up to that game, Austin had been averaging about 24 points per game on some pretty ridiculous shooting splits too. Roughly 52% from the field on 14 field goal attempts per game, 49.3% from 3 on 8 3-point shot attempts per game, and 88% from the free throw line. And yet, one game is all it took for some fans to completely turn on him and want him to be benched or brought off the bench. And no, I'm unfortunately not joking about that. I'm not sure what it is about Austin, and having one bad game can lead to fans wanting to bench him or bring him off the bench, really having no patience with him and not remembering what he continues to do in regard to proving fans wrong. After one bad game, Austin will usually come back and have a great game, or at the bare minimum a very good game and be very efficient, both during the regular season and the postseason too. And yes, we can point to the postseason with him and say that he has been a good playoff performer. Up until this point, averaging about 17 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, and 4 assists per game, only 1.4 turnovers per game, and shooting well from the field and 3-point line, roughly 46% from the field and 40% from 3. So pointing to that in his prior playoff history, I think it's safe to say that more often than not, he does come back around and have a good game and has been a reliable playoff performer for them. So with that in mind here, no, I'm not about to bench him or bring him off the bench after one bad game. Maybe if he'd have a bad game 2 and or bad game 3, then yes, we can have that talk then. But until that happens, I'm not going to be that reactionary to it. I'm not going to bench Austin or say that he won't come back from only one bad game and have a much better game 2, which I think he will in my opinion. Or then factoring in defense, I know that's been part of the argument to bench him and something that fans have been pointing to with him. But then again, he was the primary defender on Ant during the first half, and I wouldn't say Ant had a great particular game. Not saying that was all Austin Reaves, that's not the case here, or saying that Austin had a great defensive game, that's also not the case here, but it's not like he was terrible against Ant, holding Ant to only 8 points in the first half, on 3 of 9 from the field, 0 of 1 from beyond the arc, actually being a -1 in regard to plus-minus rating, so he was not the guy that directly hurt them. More so it was guys like Jade McDaniels, Julius Randle, and Naz Reid off the bench. So I'm definitely not about to blame the entirety of that in his defense. Again, wouldn't say it was a great defensive game for Austin, but then again it wasn't a great defensive game for their team, anyone on their team, or even a good defensive game for anyone on their team in general. So whether you're talking about his offense, defense, or simply game 1 performance, I'm not going to say that was enough to bench him or bring him off the bench for game 2. But after Austin, talking about Jackson Hayes here, only played 8 minutes and did not play particularly well in them. Kind of did get pushed around out there. Defensively, looked a little bit lost and a little bit overwhelmed. Maybe the pressure and nerves got to him a bit. Starting his first playoff game, the bright lights of LA and the playoff atmosphere might have been the thing to point to here with him. Offensively, obviously didn't make a big impact. 1 point, didn't make a single field goal, and obviously not a good game for him in that regard. Rebounding wise, grabbed 3 of them, 2 of which were offensive rebounds, and they could use more of that in game 2. So maybe give him a bit longer leash, let him figure it out, and maybe the nerves will calm down for him. Hopefully, and they definitely could use more pace out there if he can replicate what he did during the regular season, offering some good rim protection out there, good switchable defense, offering obviously a great lob threat, and that actually could be key if Rudy Gobert continues to switch on defense rather than always drop into that drop coverage. That could be something to take advantage of. And then simply rebounding too, offering and trying to match the physicality. If he can play that way and play a bit more determined out there, that could go a long way in helping match that on the court and kind of matching up with it a little bit better at times too. But then finally for Dalton Knecht, many are saying they'd like to see him in game 2, back in the rotation and actually get meaningful minutes rather than simply garbage time minutes. Now the difficult part here is to who replace him with and who to take minutes away from to give minutes to Dalton Knecht. Many are saying Jordan Goodwin, but he barely played in this one. Only played about 3 meaningful minutes, 2 of which were garbage time, so not much to take away from him. And then if you're talking about either Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, or Dorian Finney-Smith, not a whole lot of leeway there with them either. Obviously not Dorian Finney-Smith, the first guy off the bench for them and arguably the most important guy for their defense. Maybe Jared Vanderbilt, but Finney-Smith plays a whole lot more than him, and plays everywhere from small forward, power forward, all the way down to center. Then for Gabe Vincent, maybe you could argue taking a few minutes away from him, but even in regard to what he does and what he offers on the court, is pretty crucial to the rotation. Can obviously get scorching hot from 3. We've seen it from him, and that can go a long way in helping their offense, especially from their bench unit, so I'm not sure they have much leeway with Gabe Vincent either. And then finally for Jared Vanderbilt, only played 13 minutes and despite not playing well offensively, maybe trying to do a bit too much on defense and overhelping a bit too much, he definitely was the one guy playing with energy and wasn't lacking energy on the court, which in my opinion shouldn't lead to him playing less minutes. If anything, maybe put him on Anthony Edwards a bit more, let him play more one-on-one defense rather than the help defense and playing that center role for their team, so maybe use him differently but not less in game 2. And with that in mind here, I'd maybe like to see more Dalton Knecht, and I get the argument for it, giving their bench unit a spark, obviously offensively and with his 3-point shooting, but I'm not sure they can find room for him and maybe not take the risk defensively. After all, with Dalton Knecht does come a little bit of risk on defense, not a great defender, not very disciplined, can make plays here and there, but in a must-win game arguably, and in a playoff setting, maybe don't want to take that risk despite the upside offensively. And overall, I know we're trying to do something different and give their team a spark, but I'm not sure it comes with benching anyone, removing and adding somebody different within the rotation. I think it has to do more with their game plan, defensive approach, offensive scheme, and tweaking that a bit more in game 2, rather than a big rotation change. But what do you guys think? How do you feel about game 2 and the adjustments they maybe should make or should not make for game 2 compared to game 1? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one, and if you enjoyed the video, then I'll greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.